It was Biden's throwdown with an auto union worker that got a majority of the big headlines yesterday, other than coronavirus-related stuff. And we played, right, Mark? We played yesterday a version of it. It was really hard to hear. Better audio of this exchange emerged, and so I wanted to play it for you, and then also just do the aftermath analysis of this, because this turns into a perfect example of so many things. That Joe Biden isn't very bright, that Joe Biden doesn't know very much, that he's kind of nasty and aggressive with people for no apparent reason, even when he knows there's cameras everywhere and he's supposed to be winning votes. And then the Joe Biden, industrial media complex goes to work. Oh, yeah, that was great what he did. That was super smart. Joe Biden's real smart. It's great. Here is the better version. We'll play the whole thing for the better version of the audio of the exchange. Play it, Mark.
And you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
You're full of
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my sons hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were in Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns,
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out there. They're simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the guns.
Well,
he just clarified it.
Wait. Take the AR-14s.
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Hey, let's
You don't tell me anything, pal. I'm going to go outside.
There's a lot of guys.
You're
wanted.
man.
I'm not worried.
Hold on. So much.
Give me a break, man. Don't be
You're
such a horse
pushing
guy.
up on me.
Hey, there's a lot of.
Hey.
Speak to Joe.
Look, here's the deal.
Go
Here's the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun? I said, are you able to own one? I'm the law.
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
How is that in the machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
In America from handguns, and there are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are dying by handguns?
So you could really hear it better that time. That's why I want to, and because everyone's now focused in on this, because this shows you, this is who the Democrats are holding up as a return to normalcy, adult governance, a steady hand on the wheel of America's destiny, blah, 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 all this crap, right? This is the guy they're offering up for all of that. All right, well, let's just work through this, shall we? He starts off, he's asked a question about, a very, very good question, about why union workers who believe in Second Amendment rights should support Joe Biden. And he, within moments of the question, I mean, within like the first couple sentences, starts saying, I'm hunting. I've been hunting before, and my sons have guns, and, the Second Amendment. Anybody who, when the Second Amendment comes up, starts talking about hunting shotguns, does not know what the heck they're talking about. It's a rule. It's just a rule. You just know this right away. The second someone starts saying, I believe that, hunters and sportsmen, the Second Amendment has nothing to do with shooting clay pigeons or real pigeons. Nothing to do with it. All right? The Second Amendment is about a defense against government tyranny by an armed citizenry, which also is the same right that you have to defend yourself, your home, and your family. The basic human right of self-defense. Right? So that's what the Second Amendment's about. That is why it exists. It does not exist so that people can go grouse shooting on the weekend, although some of you may really enjoy that, and that's fine. All right. That's one big problem with Biden's response here. Two is when he says that he did not say that. Yes, he did. Yes, in fact, Joe Biden very much did say that he was going to, he said he was going to have Beto, who said he wants to take away AR-15s, in charge of it. This is the last few weeks. And when Anderson Cooper asked him if people should be concerned when he said he's coming for their guns, he said, heck yeah, they should be, on CNN. I've seen the clips. They exist. They are real. He has said that. So he's wrong on that. He's obviously wrong about AR-14s. Yet again, you don't have to know anything. If you're a lib and you want to ban guns, you're just allowed to say stupid stuff. But guns bad. That's all you have to know. Guns bad. So he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Then he asked the guy if he wants to go outside. This is the steady hand, folks. Remember, Trump is so mean, and Trump says mean things at rallies, and Trump says the press are the enemy of the people, and all that stuff. And yet, Joe Biden, when he's asked a normal question by a possible voter, who is not a Trump supporter, from what I understand. He was on Fox and Friends this morning. I saw an interview with him, and he's like, I'm not telling you who I vote. I think he said he didn't vote for Trump the last time, and he wasn't going to say who he was going to vote for this time. So this is Joe Biden's opportunity to show that he's the cool, calm, collected, cerebral, thoughtful statement that the libs are all going to pretend he is. They're just going to say, who do you believe, me or your lying eyes? And this is one of the key elements. I mentioned Orwell's 1984 to you yesterday, which is, I'm like a 1984 book salesman here. I'm always trying to tell people you have to read it. You have to read it, and you read it more than once. You have to read this book. You have to understand why it had so much impact. But one of the most important tenets of Big Brother is to get you to not, and there's even a quote, I'll find it later, but to get you to forget what your ears hear, forget what your eyes see. You must believe what we tell you. That's what the media is going to do with Joe Biden. It's going to be Big Brother for Biden. Oh, how dare you think that Joe Biden looked like a moron? He did. He looked like a total moron in this exchange, a reckless idiot. And he's moving. This isn't like it was an offhand moment. He's having a beer with the guys after work or something. By the way, some people got all mad at me because I said I don't always like that tactic that James O'Keefe uses. Okay, so let's just remember this. When one of my friends is a conservative, when one of the lib journos out there start trying to get, because they want to get us all fired, they start sending people to have off-the-record, social conversations with people who work in media, and they start taping them, and the moment they say something embarrassing or they complain about their employer, they put it out on the news. I'm going to be consistent. All these other, investigative journalism. It's not investigative journalism to get somebody to say their boss is doing a crappy job and, they loosen up their tie and say, yeah, journos are a bunch of jerks and clowns. We all know that. So sorry. I know people sometimes, we want to believe certain things, I'm all about owning the libs, but doing so in an honorable way. And I'm saying some of what James does is very good. Some of it I don't really like. And I'm honest about that. And if we get James on the show again, I'll say that to him, and he can explain to me how it's useful to get people on tape complaining about their bosses and then getting them suspended or fired. That by pretending to be somebody that just wants to have like a friendly conversation. Investigative journalism where you're like talking about the sale of human body parts. Yes, absolutely. Necessary. Good. Investigative journalism where we're just getting lib journos to say stupid things and then put it on TV. Anyway. But Biden wasn't off the clock. Biden wasn't somebody who you would think would speak in a way that could hurt him under these circumstances because everyone's holding, cameras out and iPhones and all this stuff. It's crazy. Then he says, you're able to own a machine gun? You're able to own a machine gun? The answer is yes, you dope. You are able to own a machine gun under the circumstances of getting an FFL license. You have to pay, I think it's, I hate saying it because whenever I say with it, it's, like 50, you're going to write me like, excuse me, Buck. It's not $500. It's $300, the FFL. I've had one for 30 years. All right. I'm not sure how, I don't have one. It's New York, so I'm not going to get one. But, you can get an FFL license from the federal government, but then you'd have to be in compliance also with state and local laws about firearms. Nonetheless, you can own a machine gun. It's just you need a special permission to do it. But the more important point is that there is a difference in firing mechanism between a machine gun and an AR-15. There is no difference in firing mechanism between a common semi-automatic hunting rifle and an AR-15. So how are you making that distinction? And that's when he also then brings up handguns versus assault rifles. As we know, handguns are far more, 90% plus of homicides with firearms involve handguns, not rifles or shotguns. And then he brings up 100 rounds, which is just, they're not trying to say you can't have 100 rounds. They're trying to say you can't have 15. You can't have 10. All right, so let's at least have the conversation where it's happening. They're not banning 100-round drums. That's not what libs are really trying to do. Libs are trying to ban 15-round magazines, standard for like a Glock 19. They don't want you to have that. No, that's so bad. And then we'll send you to prison, too, if they have to, in order to make the case. So Biden looked like a total moron in all of this. What do you think the response was? I mean, it's really hard. I just walked you through. He was wrong, acting like a jerk. What do you think the response was? Well, we could first have Joe Biden's response when he's asked about this. And this is the most telling of all in some ways. Play clip 6.
President, on the coronavirus, campaign are both targeting you over this exchange this morning with the voter about guns. Any regrets about how you handled it?
Well, I'm surprised that Sanders is joining Trump. It's just surprising.
Was it appropriate to swear at an American, though, especially a union voter?
I'm surprised, Bernie and Trump. I'm being honest. That was Joe Biden. The press asked him a question. He answered it like somebody who really needed a blanket and his sippy cup and a long nap. Let's keep it real. That is what that sounded like. That is what it looked like in the video too. I'm surprised that Bernie. Bernie's older than Biden. Bernie looks like he's got a lot more energy, a lot more pep in the step. He does. And Trump is not even close. I mean, I think Trump could sit down here and do a 6-hour radio show with his eyes closed. We all know he could, right? And sound like he's got a ton of energy the whole time. It's just different. Biden's he's not there. He hasn't got it. They want to pretend like it's something other than what it is. We all see it. But if you're talking about pretending like it's something else, you can't do any better than looking at what the media response to this has been. Oh, conservatives pounce, but Joe Biden did a great job. We need more of this from Joe Biden. Wow. Well, Chuck Schumer, for example, he weighed in on this, and didn't he, or am I crazy? Well, I thought it was Chuck Schumer that weighed in on this. No, he weighed in on the coronavirus. I'm sorry. Joe Scarborough weighed in on this one. Here's an example of what I was talking about. And here's what he says. Play clip 20.
When you listen to Joe, when you see Joe now in the past 10 days, 2 weeks out in the campaign trail, you see something that resonates with voters. And it's pretty simple. It's humanity, it's empathy, it's stability and experience.
Let's talk about humanity, Mike, and talk about that moment where somebody made the mistake of saying he was going to take all their guns away. And I know Republicans just jumped on it. Oh, my God, can you believe a political figure using crass language? I mean, come on. Seriously? Look in the mirror, folks. But Biden yesterday showed the other side of his humanity, and that is he's a fighter. He's a fighter. He has the experience.
I mean, I'm about to throw up on my shoes in here. You guys, that was Mike Barnacle by the talking to Joe Scarborough. Joe Scarborough's show is an unwatchable piece of trash for which NBC pays him millions of dollars because there's nothing that elite libs like more than somebody says they're a conservative and all they do is trash conservatives all day long. There's nothing that they enjoy more than that. It's this disgusting performance theater that you see with all these never Trumpers and everything. I mean, it's just gross. But notice how this is the kind of misdirection that you're going to have to expect from so many people that are paid to bring you the truth and to bring you facts. Scarborough here, it's like, oh, they're using the bad. I always picture Scarborough now and I'm a guy who, I know something about hair, but Scarborough has got that he's got the swoop that's clearly been blow dried to make it the biggest, swoopiest swoop possible. It's like, settle down, buddy. Settle down. Go write another really bad rock song. So he immediately misdirects from the real objection to this exchange that Biden has, coming from people like me who are saying Biden is wrong on all the facts. Everything he said there was wrong. Everything Biden said was wrong and dumb. He's wrong on all the facts. He's irascible. He's rude. He offers to go fight. By the way, that union worker would kick his ass. We all know. So what is that supposed to be? You want to step outside, buddy? No, Biden really doesn't want to step outside with that guy. Okay? Really stupid thing to say. Of course, he's got a Secret Service detail there with him and the whole thing. Or he's got the campaign staff, whoever's with him now. No, he's ex-VP. I think he's got Secret Service protection for life. So I'm sure he had Secret Service there. He's a real tough guy, that Joe Biden. It's garbage. But they make it sound like the thing that they're pearl-clutching over him saying a naughty word. No, we're not. We're not pearl-clutching. We're laughing. We're giggling. And also a little bit concerned for the future of the country if the wrong decision is made this fall, that this complete and utter imbecile, this used ShamWow salesman of 50 years named Joe Biden, who just gives you whatever he has to give you to get whatever he needs to get at any point in time. Somebody who has had to drop out of running for the presidency before because of dishonesty, because of plagiarism, somebody who has brought us into the hyper partisan and weaponized Supreme Court battles of today, where now it's just, that the Democrats are going to Kavanaugh people. It used to be called Borking. Now it should be called Kavanaughing. He was the first one to start that with Justice Thomas, right? And oversaw it with Robert Bork. I mean, he's not a good guy, folks. It's not good. But man, they're gonna do everything they can to make it sound like he's just fine.
He got into a verbal altercation, with that factory worker. He used some profane language. One side of the desk said, hey, it was good for him. He showed strength. The other side said maybe he went too far. What's your take on that moment today?
When I saw that moment, I thought this is going to be a net plus for Joe Biden. I've been through so many campaigns with so many candidates that have had moments like that, and everybody thinks, oh, my gosh, what just happened? In this environment, at this time, for Joe Biden, that's going to be a net plus in this. One of the things that we learned through the Donald Trump election is voters are sick of the typical political speak, the typical way where you phrase everything perfectly and say it just right and speak in paragraphs and do all of that, the way that we've gotten used to these sort of manufactured candidates that have everything put down perfectly well. Voters want somebody that they can trust and is genuine and has a believability. And that moment, to me, taking on this on an issue that's important to most Americans, which is guns, or majority of the country supports where Joe Biden is on this issue, was a moment that I thought will be captured. The Democratic Party will love it, and independent voters who question whether Joe Biden has the strength to take on Donald Trump are going to see that in him. So I think
okay, can we stop this clip? I can't. Okay, I can't handle that anymore. I'm sorry. I thought that clip was half the length that it was. That's Matthew Dowd at ABC, the dumbest political analyst on TV. Everything he says is wrong. Everything he tells you is going to happen doesn't happen. He is the worst. He's now a registered independent because that's how he has to play the game, so he can be a never-Trumper who he worked on the Bush campaign. I think he was Bush campaign director in 2004 or something like that. Now he's an independent, though. That guy's just an establishment hack. Whoever writes the biggest check, that's whose politics he shares. And he's a jerk and he's an imbecile. So I'm sorry that clip went as that's my fault. I gave producer Mark a longer version. I just wanted to get to the point where he's going, it's a net plus for Joe. It's a net plus for Joe Biden. Net plus. It's not a net plus. Joe Biden looked like a moron. And then afterwards he sounded like somebody who, had the blue plate special taken away from him too quickly at 5 p.m. down in Florida. I mean, give me a break. The net plus for Joe Biden. These are the people who are telling us that Trump's gruff way of talking and the fact that Trump speaks off the cuff is terrible. Oh, it's so unpresidential. Now, because Joe Biden stumbles over his words and sounds like he's having some kind of an attack sometimes, they're going to have to come up with something. So it's, he's just raw and authentic, man. It's a net plus for Biden. Ugh. That was the worst. The worst. Forget Ana Navarro. Matthew Dowd, dumbest political analyst on TV. He has the crown.
Well, this was unexpected. This was something that came out of China, and it hit us and many other countries. You look at the numbers. I see the numbers with just by watching you folks. I see it. It's over 100 different countries, and it hit the world. And we're prepared, and we're doing a great job with it. And it will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. We want to protect our shipping industry, our cruise industry, cruise ships. We want to protect our airline industry. Very important. But everybody has to be vigilant and has to be careful. But be calm. It's really working out. And a lot of good things are going to happen. The consumer is ready. The consumer is so powerful in our country with what we've done with tax cuts and regulation cuts and all of those things. The consumer has never been in a better position than they are right now. So a lot of good things are going to happen.
Coronavirus continues to keep everybody on edge to varying degrees. The president there giving one of his now feels like, routine everyday reassurances to the country that things are going to be okay. We're on it. Be vigilant. This is serious, but we're working on this. We're going to do. And all I hear from libs about this is just constant carping, whining, just all kinds of bad faith criticism of what the administration is doing and what Trump is saying all the time. Oh, he doesn't take it seriously. Oh, he says it's a hoax. We could sit here all day. I could just play clip after clip after clip of the president saying, look, it's serious. We're on it. We're doing what we can. Here's what we're doing. This is unsettling because it's a reminder that there are some things now, or rather that there are no things left in this country about which we can count on, especially the left of American politics, to see their Americanness as the more important thing than their partisanship. If it's not this, I don't know what it could be. There's plenty of time. You know, it's not like the election is next week. It's not like the election's next month. They have plenty of time to make their case about how Trump handled this once we see how it has been handled. That's not what they're doing. They're starting before and saying, he lies, you know, all this stuff. You know, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. And the rest of us are looking around saying, okay, I mean, so far, coronavirus has been, in terms of the health of this nation, a minimal disruption. That could change next week, could change next month. But so far, it has been minimal. And if you say that, you have all these people that jump down your throat. Oh, but Trump doesn't know it. Oh, here's a perfect example. Play clip 14.
Now, I'm going to be blunt. We are very worried about the president's incompetence and lack of focus on fighting the spread of coronavirus. We believe that his lack of focus is hamstringing efforts to address this public crisis and inflicting pain on the stock market. One word could describe thus far the administration's response: incompetence. The best way, we would tell the president, the best way to ensure economic security right now for the American people is to focus on fighting the illness and the spread of the illness. Ask any CEO today what they want most. I'll bet they tell you they want the coronavirus to be contained.
So much slimy dishonesty from Schumer, but that's his brand. I mean, that is what Schumer is. A dishonest, grotesque, shameless politician. That's all he is. Notice how he says the administration, he keeps talking about the administration's incompetence. How are they incompetent? What has been incompetent about this administration? Now, there is some journalism that has been going on about this is one of the initial areas where there was all this complaint about the administration, about testing, about all the testing. And now there's a story about a group tied to the Bill Gates Foundation up in Washington. Obviously, Washington has had a whole lot of cases and the most fatalities in the country. They had an outbreak there. There was a group that was doing research into influenza tied to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they went through the bureaucracy. They went through the FDA and the CDC trying to say, hey, can we switch and start testing for coronavirus, Wuhan virus, much more specific way of talking about this virus. Can we switch to Wuhan virus testing? Because right now we have the ability, but we have there are concerns about patient privacy. They haven't given us the right to do this. And also we don't know if our facilities are certified for that. And guess what? CDC and FDA, because they're government bureaucracies, were like, nope, sorry, can't do it. Nope, sorry, it's going to take weeks. Nope, sorry. And this is actually evidence of how the government, one, can't really protect you for most of the things you need protection from. Two, is slow, lethargic, dumb, and unaccountable. And three, Trump stepping in to try and force things along faster has actually been helpful in a variety of contexts, especially with the travel. See, when I talk about what Trump has done, I speak of things that he has done. Banning flights from China into the U.S. and, of course, the outbreak in Washington that has now killed a few dozen people. Somebody who visited Wuhan province. That's where it came from. So did we want more people to come before we knew what we're dealing with from Wuhan province? More people to come from China? And, in fact, more people in Washington and other states across the country? Because Trump said, no flights, shut it down. And there were people, experts, in the quotes, experts say that this doesn't really do anything, yeah? You want 100 flights a day coming in with people from China, or you want 0 if you live in Washington right now? You want 100 flights coming in every day from China if you live in New Rochelle, right here in outside of New York City in a suburb, or you want 0? I think we all know the answer to that. So I can speak of concrete steps the president took. They just speak in these vague, he's terrible, he's incompetent. That's all they say. That's all they offer. Pelosi even thinks this is time for coronavirus jokes. I don't know who's worse, Pelosi or Schumer. They're both terrible. Play 18.
He had the contact with Congressman Collins and Congressman Gates. The president should be tested.
Tested for what?
For coronavirus.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you think he should be?
I've thought he should be tested for a long time now.
I thought he should be tested. Yeah, she's making a funny. Ha ha. Ha ha. Do you think that if someone asked about a Democrat president getting tested for what could be a fatal disease, especially for somebody who's over the age of 70, as Trump is, do you think if the Speaker of the House, who was a Republican, made some joke about, if a President Joe Biden faced a similar thing, you think that would just be, I don't think so. These people, no honor, no decency, no fair play. So that's really that's the brand that the left has built for themselves. That's who they are. So I'm never surprised by it anymore, but it still bothers me greatly every time we have to deal with this. So speaking of deal with it, the administration is trying to deal with this. And so they're now talking about measures. I mentioned some of this yesterday in the show, measures to address this. And we are in a situation where it's not going to be free market. It's not going to be, this is not where capitalism is the only thing that comes into play. Government bailouts are kind of a political decision. Let's be honest about it. And they're talking about bailing out some industries and doing some other things here. Here is Vice President Pence. Clearly doesn't think this is a hoax because he's the guy who's coordinating the response. Here's what he says about what we're going to try to do. Play 3.
We want to make sure that hourly workers, hardworking blue-collar Americans that may not have paid family leave today, that small and medium-sized businesses in America would be afforded the resources to provide paid leave so that no one would feel that they have to go to work if they might be infected or if they might have been exposed to the coronavirus. We also talked about what are known as N95 masks, and we're working, Senator Deb Fischer and others have important legislation that would extend temporary liability protections so that masks that are made for industrial use could be sold to hospitals to ensure that our healthcare workers are properly protected and outfitted. And we're grateful for growing bipartisan support for that measure, and we're going to be working earnestly with Republicans and Democrats to move a reform that would make more N95 masks available. I'm also pleased to report that we did receive this afternoon a comprehensive proposal from the cruise line industry, a proposal that includes advanced screening, improving medical services on ships, providing for airlift evacuation and land-based care at the expense of the cruise lines for anyone that might be not only infected with the coronavirus, but with any serious illness.
Is any of that unserious? Does that sound like an administration that's not taking action here? I mean, he's getting into the specifics, talking about upgraded masks for medical facilities, working with specific industries, talking about paid leave for small and medium-sized employers to assist with government funds for that. I've even seen reporting they may, and they absolutely should, move back the tax filing deadline, because right now everybody's got stuff going on. They're in a panic. They're trying to keep their business afloat. You're going to put us through the tax code. I mean, I wish I could just light the whole thing on fire and start fresh. It's ridiculous. But you're going to put us through that mess right now? Really? Oh, yeah. That's the most important thing to think about. Making sure you pull all your receipts together. You see how much the government's allowed to rob you this year. So, yeah, they're taking action. How does Chuck Schumer, remember, I played it for you so you could hear it, very specific things. Paid sick leave, working with industries, improved screening procedures, masks for hospitals, all things that are being done that they're working toward now. They've already talked a lot about the testing kits and how they're going to make sure that people can get tested who need to get tested. This is how Chuck Schumer, talks about the administration's response. Play 2.
You know what doesn't help stop the spread of the coronavirus? More corporate tax cuts. Here's what we're worried about, that the president will pay attention to the special interests instead of the people. Here's a headline from the Washington Post, just came out, 128. White House likely to pursue federal aid for shale companies hit by oil shock. Coronavirus downturn. We don't have enough tests. People can't determine if they're ill or not. They have to wait days, and they're concerned with the oil companies that pierce the shale and get oil. Is that incredible?
Maybe they're concerned with all of the above, Schumer, you disgusting liar. And that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. Yeah, they don't want, we're concerned about the cruise industry, which I got to be honest with you, is not like a strategic U.S. national security interest. But everyone's like, yeah, I'd feel bad. A lot of, thousands and thousands and thousands of people lose their jobs if the cruise industry were to just go under. They have very high overhead, very high expenses. No one riding those ships, they got problems. But you want to talk about important U.S. industries. We're already looking at how China has to provide so much of our medicine, of our antibiotics, of our medical tools and devices. And if we lose access to that for, nefarious or just supply chain reasons, we got big problems. You want to watch as Saudi Arabia and Russia win a price war against U.S. shale oil producers? So all of a sudden we're going to be dependent on those dirtbags again? That's the move? Schumer. But it's just a classic Schumer. People don't have enough tests, and they're worried about oil. They're worried about everything. They're worried about the U.S. economy. These are unserious people. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. Their arguments are stupid. They're dishonest. And they're trying to hurt this country at a time when the rest of us are focused on keeping our fellow Americans alive and keeping our economy going. You want to know what else is something we should think about? Suicides, depression, substance abuse, all of those things spike during an economic recession. People do die when things get really bad, when they lose their job, when they lose their house, when they think they have no future. So, yeah, there are more important things than putting borderline senile Joe Biden on the throne of power, libs. Chuck Schumer doesn't seem to think so. Can't even put it aside the partisan acrimony for a second to just try to be helpful. You heard what Gavin Newsom said. He's like, the president said everything. He's done everything he said he would do, helping out the state of California every way we'd want the federal government to. I'll never think of Gavin Newsom quite the same way. I mean, I used to think he was 100%, psycho lib. Now it's more like 90%. Because this is a moment where we see who people really are. What are they really made of? I'm telling everybody that to be quiet. I'm reading everything I can. I'm reading all day. All I do is just radio and read and research, and I try to eat some food sometimes, get some sleep, and I still owe producer Mark a hockey game. We'll get there one day when I'm not doing 4 hours of radio a day. But that's all I'm doing is trying to gather as much information on this as I can all the time. And I'm still here telling you, yeah, I think I agree with the president. I think we're going to push through. We're going to be okay. There is a scenario where we do have millions and millions infected with this before we really have a treatment, a vaccine, a cure, or the medical infrastructure to handle that kind of influx. And we could lose a lot of people. That's real. That's real. And, Chuck Schumer wants to complain about how, the oil industry, he's not doing enough. Pelosi's making jokes about how Trump should be tested for coronavirus. That's not funny. These are the people that want to be back in charge because they think they know more than you, they're smarter than you, and if you supported Trump, you're a bad person. You're seeing who they are right now. You're seeing what their character is right now. Don't forget it.
Well, look, as the president has said, in our line of work, you shake hands when someone wants to shake your hand. And I expect the president will continue to do that. I'll continue to do it. What this is a broad recommendation for Americans. But a really good recommendation is to wash your hands often.
These are important things to do. They are not sufficient things to do. And I'm just reminded of this. We often say things like, I pray for this country and I pray for the president and that he will be a better leader. And I was in church last weekend thinking about this because church right now feels like a place that's, look, let's be honest, it's not safe in terms of the virus, does not discriminate, doesn't care if you're in there speaking to God. You can still get coronavirus. And I am worried about our president, our vice president. Yes, I am, and I don't say this with any sarcasm. I mean, I am worried about Pelosi and Schumer, and I mean, you look at the political leadership of this country, and we have reached this point in time where we really seem to think that the only people who can make important decisions about America's future are in their early 70s, up to late 70s. That when you have the possibility of this pandemic coming, this worries me. This worries me because no matter what measures are taken, and our ability to fight against this virus, the tools we have to fight this war are not that good right now, and we have a lot of very important to the function of this country older people who will be at risk, including our top leadership. So say a prayer for all of them.